welcome. Let's dive right into it. Greg, let's start with LSU and Clemson. What are you looking for in the matchup of the Tigers?
Well, LSU has a great quarterback. We know that with Garrett Nussmeier. The problem is they have 4 new offensive linemen, 4 that were drafted off last year's team that they have to replace. And they're going against a defensive line in Clemson that might feature 2 first-rounders in Peter Woods on the interior and TJ Parker on the outside. Can they keep their quarterback's jersey clean? It's a big question.
That's going to be something to watch there. Greg actually is going to be calling Notre Dame Miami for us. Harry, what are you looking forward to in that top 10 matchup?
I want to see if C.J. Carr can actually push the football down the field for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. We know about Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price, and also Aeneas Williams at the running back position. They have a 3-headed monster. But if Miami stacks that box and forces them to pass the football, can C.J. Carr get it done? Pushing it down the field. I like the guys that they have at the wide receiver position. They bought in a transfer also from Virginia, Malachi Fields. I like him a lot. Can they get it done?
All right, so we'll see the Irish in their first performance since the title game, and then a
trifecta. That's a lot of pressure on a quarterback going up against Matt Patricia, new defensive coordinator. Remember Belichick against rookie quarterbacks? Didn't do too well, right? And this defense lost a lot of guys at Ohio State, but they returned some stars. They got a kid, Kenyatta Jackson Jr., coming off the edge. You got Sonny Styles at linebacker. You got Caleb Downs at safety, and Jermaine Matthews Jr. at corner. At Ohio State defense has some formidable talent on that side of the ball.
Mel is obviously very ready for this game, as everybody is. And speaking of Arch, I want you to hear what Jordan Rodgers had to say yesterday about all the attention he's receiving and what he has actually seen on the field.
The height doesn't match the tape. There are good things, and there are some good things. But the height or the tape, to me, doesn't tell you got a first-round draft pick or a top 10 or a number 1 overall draft pick or a Heisman hopeful. I think he's going to go into Ohio State. He's going to struggle because he hasn't played anybody.
To be clear, and that is the meat of the point that Jordan was making. He did go on to say he thinks he will be a great player, but that it is going to take some time. So, Greg, he's talking about the tape. You've put together the tape for us. What do we see in Arch Manning so far, and what do we expect on Saturday?
Well, I'm going to respectively disagree because I went back and watched the tape yesterday. It was like, all right, maybe Arch is better than I thought after watching a few plays because, man, his game last year against Mississippi State in particular was off the charts good. Watch this play. All right, you got a guy off the edge. He has to negotiate that pass rush, steps up beautifully, but here's what makes him different. The athleticism. Look at the angles that the defenders take. Those are terrible. Yes, is that an indictment on the defender? Sure, but it might be kind of showing just how fast Arch is. How about this one? Look at this and how he steps up, moves to his left. This is very hard for a quarterback. Throws back across his body to his right. That's a long throw in the air. He hits it in stride. So I saved the best for last. You're going to love this. You know it's all out pressure. Flat top defense, one-on-one coverage. You know your protection is overloaded. Arch knows that off the right-hand side, he's got to beat the unblocked defender. He does in 2.2 seconds. And look at the accuracy and the ball placement down the field. Look, a lot of guys understand that with an unblocked defender, you can get it out, but it's going to be a 2-3 yard throw, just a hot route, right? Not a lot of guys are taking shots downfield, knowing you have all-out cover 0 on the defensive side. He drops it in the bucket beautifully. I'm telling you guys, I think he is absolutely going to live up to expectations. Not so much to the point that he's the biggest freak we've ever seen throwing it, but I think his acumen, his understanding, his accuracy, and I think his preparedness over the last few years has him positioned to have a tremendous first year as a starting quarterback.
Yeah, all those things, Mel, sound like a Manning, and throwing the ball sounds like a Manning. And then the way he runs doesn't look like a Manning, that's for darn sure. Obviously, it's a totally different animal. What is your expectation for him, Mel, against a really tough test on the road in his first big game?
Remember, his dad, Cooper, was a wide receiver, so he got speed from his father. But I think when you look at where we are with Arch, to play this opponent, I think Jordan was talking about the cupcakes. Now you got at Ohio State, at the shoe, high noon kickoff against Matt Patricia. That's going to be tough to navigate, but they have 3 cupcakes after this to kind of right the ship. And keep in mind, Arch Manning at the end of this year only would have. He's got 2 starts last year, maybe you'll end up with 17. Mitchell Trubisky, Mark Sanchez, Trey Lance. Think about guys like that. Anthony Richardson. A lot of quarterbacks that didn't have many starts struggled in the NFL. well, some of those guys, right? So you think about Arch, he can go back for another year. It's all anticipated that he will. So this game is not all about this game. If he does have some issues, it won't be unexpected because like I say, you're playing a defense that has talent, that has Matt Patricia, and you're on the road. And the expectations and the pressure is immense for this kid. So even if he does struggle, so be it. They still have time. You can still make the playoffs, obviously, with a couple losses. So the season's not over, and it's certainly not over Arch and this Texas Longhorn football team if, in fact, they do have some struggles at the shoe high noon on Saturday.
You can see on your screen that they are actually an underdog, despite being the #1 team in the country. It's a 1.5-point spread. I had seen it as high as 2.5. Meantime, if there's one thing that I think everyone can agree on, and for the folks who are getting set to watch this game, that Arch Manning might be the most hyped player on the field. It's unlikely he's the best player on the field. Jeremiah Smith, the wide receiver from Ohio State, might be the best player in the country, and Harry's going to show you why.
Yeah, he is. You talk about size, speed, strength, being able to do every single thing at the wide receiver position, and I have this tape to showcase a lot of different things. And the first play that we have on this tape is going to be the speed threat. Look at Jeremiah Smith right here. You're going to see this other wide receiver come in motion. He's going to run a bubble screen. Jeremiah Smith is going to run what we call a 5-yard spot route. Watch him as soon as he catches the football. No wasted movement, get north and south, watch the acceleration and the speed. You have 5 guys in white jerseys that could have tackled him, but he says, peace, I'm gone. The speed that he reached, 21.7 miles per hour. That's the speed threat of Jeremiah Smith. Now watch the deep ball threat that he has. Check this out. This is a go route versus off coverage. First thing that you must do as a wide receiver, you got to have great get off. He does that. But then you jump outside to that blind spot. Now that defender is lost, and now he's trying to scramble and find you, but the last part of the catch, contested. He does a great job of that as well.
He's spectacular, right? I mean, he's got all of the tools. There were 2 fabulous freshman receivers in the country last year. This kid, he's as good as there is in the country, right?
1,000%. And I played with someone by the name of Julio Jones that Greg McElroy knows very, very well. And you see the similarities.
We can put the pics up on the screen. This is going to be very bad news for the folks in Texas because we all like the Longhorns, which means 100%, as I've said a million times, if everyone thinks something is going to happen, it never does. Greg and Mel, stay close by. We'll have much more as we continue looking forward to this weekend. But coming up, are we getting closer to a resolution in the Micah Parsons standoff? Has the trade suddenly become much more a possibility than it has been before? We'll dive into that. Plus, Patrick, the great's #1 threat, benched by the NFL. How does this impact Mahomes and the Chiefs? We'll answer that question next.